Hello and welcome to Misplaced Musings, I guess. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Cowan, and I'm joined by my co host.
Shannon Duffy.
And today we're going to try something a little different. We're having a format with actual segments, and so we're going to see how that goes. We're starting off with our current events segment, where we're going to cover, anything happening of significance that we want to talk about that's current. And I will let you start, Shannon, because I think you have something to talk about.
I do. I have multiple some things. First one is a really silly piece of news. Sakura from Street Fighter, along with Blanca from Street Fighter, are now in Fortnite. They have joined Ryu and Chun Li. Why Blanca? I don't fucking know.
Because he's
However,
green. He's green, and green is cool.
he is green, that is true. But Sakura has her theme with her and her dance, which makes it worth it almost. To see a bunch of people playing Sakura dancing in the middle of the arena instead of shooting each other. Um, she is bringing the world together in peace.
I am glad you appreciate this. I know a lot of people are dismissive of Fortnite. I don't play it. I'm indifferent to it, but
Mhm.
um, let the people have their fun. And hey, the more these characters get used, the better, right?
Exactly. The more money Capcom makes out of fighting games, the higher chance of me getting fighting games I actually want.
Ha! I'm about to reverse this on you though, because me
Uh-oh.
and you have argued, and you do not feel the same way about mobile gacha games. So why is Fortnite different?
Why is Fortnite different than the disgusting, awful depths of the gotcha? Okay. So the reason why gotchas are different is my point is that the mobile space would have different things being made if gotchas weren't as popular and companies were not forcing everyone to make gotchas.
I suppose that's probably true. Although those games are there for people who look for them. They just get overshadowed in the app stores.
They do. It's very sad. There's a really good port of Ghost Trick on iOS that I feel is worth playing.
Yeah, that's the other thing is awareness. We're in a Discord that plays RPGs, and there's been a couple of months where I'll play like Final Fantasy Tactics or something like that, and most of us just assume that the mobile port of that game is bad. But then people will be like, no, no, it's actually those are really good ports. And so I think a lot of people just assume any console game ported or any game for another platform ported to mobile is going to be awful.
And that's not the case. RPGs, especially, can be very good on mobile. If they have turn based fighting, it's not a huge deal. The issue is when they try to put things like Mega Man on mobile. That's
Yeah.
when it becomes problematic.
Although people, a lot of people hook their controllers up to their phones now, so
I know the future is now.
I mean, at that point, I'll just grab my Vita or my DS or something. But I'm old, so I don't know.
I too am ancient. And something that actually is relevant to is that a lot of older Sonic titles are going to be delisted off of the I think it's Steam, and are they also being taken off of the PlayStation stores as well and stuff like that?
Yeah, my understanding is they are everything except for Sonic 1 and 2 on the Switch that are part of the Sega Ages collection, which this is all as a result. They're releasing a new compilation of games, Sonic
Mhm.
Origins, which will include Sonic 1, 2, 3, and CD.
Mhm.
So they're delisting these older titles from a lot of places, I guess to be like, no, this is the definitive version that we want you to play. It does suck though when companies do that.
Yeah, it's awful. For example, I want to mod Dark Souls on my computer. I do not have Prepare to Die edition. 80% of the good mods are for Prepare to Die edition. Do you know how much that's worth on the secondhand key market now?
I didn't even know there was a secondhand key market. I assume a lot.
Yeah. $200 right now
That's ridiculous.
for Dark Souls 1.
Wait, and this is the PC version?
Yes.
I'm not saying you should, resort to piracy, but at that point, I would probably resort to piracy.
I probably should parlay a little bit. That's probably not a bad idea.
I mean, if it's not available officially and the secondhand market has it at that much money, that's insane.
And I did buy the special edition, so you know what? I put my money in. So that's true. I could absolutely. And speaking of putting money in, Elon Musk has purchased Twitter. What does that mean for me? Probably nothing. I barely use the website anyway. I mostly use it to look at art, kittens and bodegas, and
You know,
indie video games.
hopefully I edit this episode, in a somewhat timely manner, so this isn't like people are like, "That happened forever ago." Um, but, uh but yeah, it's all everybody's talking about right now. Elon Musk sucks, and yeah,
He does.
he bought Twitter, and he's probably gonna make it worse, but time will tell. I do think a lot of people right now are talking about, flocking from Twitter to other platforms, and for the most part, I think that they're just venting because there's not really a alternative platform to flock to at the moment, and that a lot of people say that kind of thing, but the people who mean it generally are the people who aren't using the platform anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing. Are we good to move on to the next topic? Because that actually reminded me of something. Or do you have something else to say here?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, the thing on Twitter is I know a lot of people don't use it, so they're like, whatever. But it is like the central hub for a lot of different communities, like the retro hardware community and like the ROM hacking community and stuff. They use Twitter a lot to drop news and updates, and then artists, if independent, like up and coming little amateur artists and stuff. Twitter is a huge resource for them. I have hired several artists to draw things from Twitter, like finding them on Twitter. So, um, if it does go south, it will suck for those people.
Yeah, it'll be very unfortunate. And something that's actually unfortunate for a whole other group of people. My segues are good today. Is
Wait, are we talking about Toki Meki?
that's gonna happen next, but this
I was like,
reminded
how's
me.
that bad news? Like,
No, the bad news is Twitch just released a very large announcement for anybody that uses their.
this was not on our script, sir. And
I know, I'm
by
going off
legal
script.
rules, you have to present new evidence during discovery. You can't just drop it in the middle of a trial. Okay.
I apologize. You can yell take that at me. It's fair. Uh,
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
thank you. They're increasing the cut they're taking from people from 50% to 70% of sub money.
That's insane.
It's really bad.
I
Up
didn't
and
even know they were
comers.
taking that much to begin with. That is crazy.
Yep. Well, if you didn't know, Amazon's going through it right now. Amazon's going through some shit. That's another discussion for another day that could take up a whole podcast about the mistakes they've made and how they're losing money. But Twitch is doing that because of that. And what's happening is up and comers already couldn't really make it. You almost had to have a either somebody helping you or a following already and move over to Twitch. Being organically recognized was not a thing really. And on top of that, you barely made anything because you only had 20 subs. Now you're making even less. It's making the barrier of entry to living off of Twitch way more difficult.
I know I just got through saying that, like making a statement about Twitter and how people won't actually leave, but in this case, I would say people should leave. Like there are Twitch alternatives, right? I mean, people.
YouTube's the big one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people could use and not YouTube sucks. Okay, I just want to say that I've argued with people about that a lot this week. For some reason, I thought everybody knew YouTube sucked, but YouTube sucks. But they don't. I don't think they suck that bad. Like as bad as like taking that much of your money.
You know, they do suck, but as far as the streaming alternative, they're a good streaming alternative.
Yeah. And I mean, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, just, start like a Patreon or something." And it's like, if only like 15 people watch me, a Patreon's not going to help me that much.
Yeah, $10 a person, you know, if that. Usually people do the $1 to $5 tiers. But even 15 people, that's $150 a month. That's nothing.
Even then, I mean, I'll be honest, all my Patreons, I don't really give money to anybody unless I this sounds really shitty, unless I get something out of it. So like, even the ones
That
where I
doesn't
give
sound
them,
shitty. Yeah, no, that's
even the
fine.
ones where I give them $1, I at least get like Discord access or something.
Yeah, no, I'll pay it if I get something I like out of it. That's how you should view a Patreon. Yeah.
Give me exclusive content or Discord access or something. Anything really.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely makes it a little better. But that was the little bit that I just wanted to talk about because it is important to the gaming sphere. A lot of people go to Twitch, use Twitch to watch things or to try and make money off of playing things or try to make money off of licking 3DO microphones.
Hey,
So,
do whatever you want. Don't
yeah,
you have a Twitch? Is that what you do on Twitch?
do I lick ears? No. I did drink really terrible Mountain Dew for the pleasure of my audience, and they
You know,
enjoyed that.
I feel like if you had made that stream more about that, you probably would have gotten more viewers.
Yeah, but you know what? The stream was about FF6, and I was the second highest watched FF6 streamer.
I feel like that's not that can't be a lot, right?
It was like 10 people. Yeah, absolutely.
You should have been like, watch me drink nasty Mountain Dew. Also, there's Final Fantasy VI.
Awesome. Yes, I could have. I need to get my my clickbait game up. I need to get that going.
You do. You gotta hashtags and stuff. It's all the thing. That's why no
Disgusting.
one listens to our podcast.
That's not true. We actually have people still listening, even though we haven't released in a month. No,
Life happens. Okay. It's been a rough year. I whatever. I'm making excuses.
yeah, so am I. I also suck, so that's okay. But that being said, do you have any news before we move on to our next section?
Oh yeah, this was a news thing. You didn't talk about Tokimeki. Wait, was this
Toki-
all in the news section?
yeah, this was all in the news section.
We're very organized people. Um, no, I got nothing. Yeah, I don't. I tend to try to stay away from the news because I get easily riled, and if I don't have anybody else to vent to, I will vent to my wife about it, and eventually she'll be like, "Shut up, you're bringing me down." Um, or she'll be like, I get that you're angry about this piece of news, but you have been going in circles about it for 2 hours, so you um stuff like that. There's a news life balance I have to watch out for.
Fair enough. Yeah,
So
I
no, I have
also do that
I have no
sometimes.
news. I have no news outside of the thing I'm going to talk about in my segment later. But anyway, so let's get to your segment because that's how this is going to work. We're going to have segments, and the first segment is Shannon's segment, which he can talk about anything he wants. And what are you talking about today, Shannon?
All right, we're talking about two things. First thing, Tokimeki Memorial finally got translated. It is a dating sim, and by a dating sim, I mean the dating sim. One of the first ones to really break out and become very popular. The first game, Heartthrob Memorial Under the Tree of Legends, or Tokimeki Memorial, came out for, I think, the PC Engine first, and then the Super Famicom release came later, 2 years later. And the translation we get is the one for the Super Nintendo release, which is awesome. It's got a whole bunch of RNG, multiple paths to try and get the girl that you want. There's a whole bunch there, and it took forever to actually translate, and it released in March. And it's exciting, and I'm happy it's out there. The only thing that's sad is it's not the Saturn version, which is the version that has the voice acting, so it's all just text, but it's still a huge feat. There's so much text in this game and all these random events that happen and all these different stats to keep track of. It's fantastic. And I'm excited to finally be able to play this thing because I've known about it for years, but do not speak Japanese, nor do I read it. So I'm very happy it is existing, and get out there and play it, y'all.
Nice. Yeah, I have seen the those games, when I'm looking through Japanese game lists, that title comes up a lot. and it's always exciting when new things that have not been translated from past consoles do show up like that, because there's a lot of stuff that we haven't gotten. Um, and it's cool. I have seen people in other communities talk about this being like a really big deal, and obviously you're very happy about it. I'll be honest, I haven't even seen. I don't know what the game looks like, um, but it sounds cool. Like I would give it a shot if I actually
Yeah,
played video games.
that would help. Yes.
I'm like I thought about this today. So you know how like an astronomer like watches space and like researches space, but
Yes.
doesn't interact with space.
Hmm.
um I don't as an adult now who spends most of my time like working or cleaning or whatever. I I spend way more time reading about video games or researching video games, or like doing you'll see me doing stupid stuff like finding old video game magazine scans and looking for things people have never seen before. I spend way more time looking at stuff like that that's related to video games than actually playing video games. And it kind of bummed me out today, but
Oh, well, that means you can adjust it if you have time or want to adjust it to change that up. I am trying to get past a bias and playing a couple minutes of a gotcha every once in a while.
I mean, look,
Um,
I'm not okay.
so I'm trying. I'm
So
trying.
the criticisms you and other people have of gacha games, and when we're talking about that, we're talking about a specific type of RPG that features it's not always characters. People think it's always characters, but whatever. It features some resource like characters or equipment that you can get through like a lottery slot machine type system, and they are notoriously predatory in the way they are monetized. Games like popular ones are like Genshin Impact, and what was that? A mainstream example is that like Xenoblade game, right? Or Xeno.
There's well, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has a gotcha mechanic, but it's
That's what I'm
not.
saying as an example to people. Like that one's not
Yeah.
predatory, but just of the concept. And the ones on cell phones are notoriously predatory. But
Mhm.
I love them. I spend so much time playing them. So I argue with people about them and defend them. And this has made Teeps or Shannon here feel like he needs to play them, but you do not. You do not. They are as awful as people say they are.
Yeah, yeah, but if I call something trash, I need to have reasoning. So I'm going to play for at least a couple hours and determine if I actually think it's trash.
I just want people to appreciate elements of them. Okay, so like overall, like let's take Brave Exvius, like
Hmm.
one of the
Hmm.
Final Fantasy ones, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius.
Yes.
It is a gacha game full of gacha game style advertising and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
Um, there are so that's bad, and it can be argued that it's not worth your time because of that. But there are elements to that game, specifically the music, the writing, like the scenario and the story scenes, and then the art assets and animation that are very good.
The music is
Um,
also very good too.
yeah, it is, and that stuff is worth like even if you're never gonna play these, if you're rolling your eyes right now and you're like, I whatever, you should go online and just type in like Final Fantasy Brave Exvius character art or something, and it is worth consuming those parts of the game. And again, the stories are actually really good. It'd be cool if there was a way to consume those without, because I want to recommend to people, hey, you should play this because the story's cool. But then they're gonna play it for 15 minutes and be like, I don't even know how you get into the story of this game because it's shooting advertisements at me.
It does shoot advertisements at you, but that leads into the next thing I want to talk about in my little section,
Yeah, I kind of took
which,
over your section for a second.
oh, it's totally fine. And that's the fact that people lump games into these rankings, and I hate it. Part of why I want to play the gotcha is just because it's a gotcha doesn't mean it's inherently bad. It just means it has certain things that I'm not going to necessarily like, but I might like more of it. The reason why I bring that up is there's a lot of talk, especially in RPG communities. There's a ton of it, of A tier and B tier content. Okay? And a problem with that is most of the time I find what people call B tier content better. So what makes it B tier? Why is Live Alive considered a B tier game, but Final Fantasy VI A tier? They
So,
they both have. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, I mean it's your topic. I was just gonna say, I know part of that comes from people. They co-opted that from movies.
Hmm.
Because in movies you have a what B movies and A movies, and it has to do
Hmm.
with the budgets.
Yes.
And like you get the same thing with like actors and actresses. You have A list actors, B list actors, etc., and it has to do with how much they're paid. I feel like that's where they kind of co-opted that from. They're like, okay, B movies, and we have B tier video games. But they're different mediums and they work the different ways, and we don't have access to those kind of informations. So I
We.
feel like it doesn't transfer over the way people think it does.
I don't think it does, and I think it's a problematic method because what happens is people put these in here and they'll say something like, "Oh, it's really good for a B tier game." Bitch, Secret of Mana's beautiful. Okay? It's great. You know what else is great? Live Alive, Treasure of the Rudras. These games we didn't even get translated over here that people call B tier, even though they have the same amount of money and effort put into them. You know what else is pretty good? Legend of Dragoon. Fuck you, Final Fantasy VII fans. It's as good. Let's go.
Lost all our
Anyway,
listeners. No,
all of them, all
uh,
seven.
yeah, no, I mostly agree with you. Except the thing is, it's also not a constant because the thing is, like with Secret of Mana, that's a good example. Is that a B tier game, quote unquote? Because it's in a lot of communities, Secret of Mana is very highly regarded now.
Not
They're
anymore. It was
they're
for a little while. Now people like to dump on it.
oh my god, why I don't like these cycles.
They're awful, yes.
Uh, well, it's because people let's reevaluate a thing. Okay, how many times do you have to do that? Uh, but no, I mostly agree with you. I mean, I know what people are saying when they say that, and it is problematic because, like you said, they kind of it makes people dismissive of things. Like there are lots of people, and this has been a problem forever, way before we had these terms, who
Hmm.
with like you were saying RPGs, they'll play Final Fantasy or they'll play Dragon Quest, right? But if you're like, hey man, play like Saga Frontier or like something not even Square, some other
Yeah,
like
Breath of
little
Fire. Let's talk
yeah, Breath
about
of Fire
that.
or something. They're
Yeah.
like, well, no, basically, like I don't play those crappy games. And it leads people to be dismissive. And the thing is, even if that's a whole argument, but even if those games aren't as good, they're
Hmm.
still not bad. Like they're still worth playing a lot of times. And in the case of, I know an example of something that gets called B tier a lot is the Tales series. And the thing is, for a particular type of person, that series is absolutely A tier. Um, and there are people who, for instance, it has a real hard, anime aesthetic.
It does.
And if a person is into that, like they're gonna love those games, and they may love them more than they do Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's got a very specific aesthetic, not to mention the gameplay allows people like me that sit in training mode practicing infinites and shit like really enjoy themselves because after you learn all of the mechanics of the battle system, you can infinite the shit out of stuff. You can just beat the crap out of them. There are so many cool combos you can do in the Tales games that make it just interesting to play. And it's got a really hard anime aesthetic and it always has really cute little vignettes with the characters and it's very character based. It's an enjoyable series. And for example, I like Tales of Berseria more than I like most Final Fantasy games. That means I'm a disgusting weeb that likes combos, but that also shows to me it's a higher rated game in my mind than say Final Fantasy VIII or Final
Oh.
Fantasy VII. And does that make Final Fantasy VIII B tier? No. Does that make Tales B tier? No. What Tales is something that knows what it is. They know who they appeal to, so they make the game for that. There's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't make it any lesser than a game that tries to be fancy and artistic Just because you're artistic does not mean you're a better piece of media than something that's simple and knows what it's doing. And I hate that argument to the very core of my being.
I will say people like to categorize things and label
Mhm.
things, right? We it's funny, we're like a conflicted, society about it because we're like labels are bad, but also we really like to categorize and organize and label things, right? So we want to be able to say, what is the best game in this genre? What is the worst? We want to be able to put things in their little square holes. Uh but and that's fine for ease of communication, for advertisement, for ways of describing things to people.
Right.
But I think we get too passionate about it sometimes, and that passion leads us to stating things like they're gospel or they're indisputable, and that's I think it's bad. For the discourse on a lot of this stuff. And also, again, it gets messy and it's not constant and it's uh well, as an example, it's like when you're talking about RPGs and what's a B tier and what's a AAA game or whatever, and it's like, are we talking about RPGs as a whole? Because then are we including Western RPGs and Japanese RPGs and tactical RPGs? Because arguably there, if you're doing that and you're using the normally accepted terms for like AAA and B tier, there are no AAA tactical RPGs. They would all be B tier.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not true. Like there are like things like Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics and Disgaea and stuff that are like the top of that genre, but it's a subgenre. So if you're just judging RPGs as a whole, they're part of that. But if you put Disgaea next to Final Fantasy, 15 or something, it's most people are gonna be like that game looks like crap.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely something to think about the genres and how they mix. But my big problem is not a lot of people don't do that. They'll just say this game is blah tier because it's blah, and that's the issue that I normally take with
Yeah,
it.
that's fair. They usually can't defend their take either very well because they'll be like, the Tell's games are B tier, and you're like, why though? And well, they're not as well made, and it's like this same person will be shitting on Final Fantasy. They're like Final Fantasy 7 is garbage, and it's like, so is Final Fantasy 7 B tier? Well, no, and it's like you just said one of the factors for something being B tier is it's not well made, and you just said that game is garbage.
Right. And you know what? FF7's not my favorite, but I can't say it's not well made, except the little pixel things that walk around in the overworld. Those are awful. But everything else in Final Fantasy VII is well done. The soundtrack's good. The combat's good. The story is the story. But I feel like that game is well made, and I feel like the hate cycle it gets makes no sense.
I think a lot of this kind of stuff, it goes, I bring this up a lot when we're talking in our different communities. There are no hard rules on this because it's all subjective, it's all opinion, it's all for fun until people take it too seriously. And the thing is, a lot of these there is no real definition, which is why they can't really defend their takes. It's kind of like the way obscenity laws work, where it's like I can't give you a legal definition for this thing, but I know it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, if that's how it works, everybody has, it's going to be subjective. So, to some people, they'll be like, well, this game is obviously B tier. Like, I know it when I see it. And another person can be like, well, I don't see that. So, which one of us is right?
Exactly. It's what makes it difficult. And that's why I think the monikers are pointless. It's why I think people should move away from it. I feel the same way about that I feel about review scores. I feel like review scores are bad too. And I feel that they don't communicate the actual quality of the game that the writer is attempting to tell you. And I mean it works for really quick looks if you're lazy and don't feel like doing the work you should do. But I also feel they're not helpful.
I think a lot of sites have moved past scores to more, using like a table and then using like a verb, like this game is good or great or playable or whatever. I used to listen to an anime podcast that their review scale was like wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers was the was
That's
like
awesome.
great. And so it's because when people ask you, hey, tell me about this game, what they really want to hear is like, is this game worth my time? And I don't think a numerical score or like a B tier, A tier type thing does that effectively, especially because people's views of numerical scores and tiers and stuff are kind of skewed.
They are. Yeah, no, I agree with you a lot on that.
So really, when somebody's like, I agree that we should probably not put things in tiers like that. It should just be more like, do you think this game is good enough to play? Yes. Like, or no, this game's beyond the beyond and it's garbage.
Yeah, that is fair enough. And to cap it all off, putting anything in rankings doesn't matter anyway because the only A tier video game made is Mega Man X. It's absolutely perfect. Nothing else is as good. And we can move right on to the next topic,
I
Brian.
I
What's
was
up?
just I just have to say, the internet tells me it's Grand Theft Auto 5, sir.
Well, the internet is incorrect because it does not have Boomer Kuwanger's theme. Okay,
I bet there's a mod where it does.
I mean potentially that's true.
But we can definitely move on because I think we overlonged on that a little bit. I actually don't. We don't set a hard limit for the length of these podcasts. Maybe we should. So I actually don't know
Mayhaps.
what's too long.
Let us know in the comments, everybody.
The one person who comments. Um,
Hey, if that's one person, it's better than zero.
Shout out to you, one person. Um, but yeah. So up next is my little spot. These maybe we'll come up with cool monikers or names for these eventually. Brian's cool zone is better than that. So I was just going to talk about a couple of quick things real quick. One is the Console Mods Wiki, which is a website. It was launched this year. I think I first heard about it back in like February. And it was launched by some people in the retro hardware modding, restoration, preservation community. People like Bob from RGB. And it's a wiki. Okay, you go to consolemods.org, and it's the idea is that eventually it'll be like a central hub where you can go if you're like, man, I have a Super Nintendo and I want to know how to change the LED power lights to a different color. And instead of having to like look through Google and find a random blog or look on YouTube and find a good video, you could go here. Like it would have everything for every console. Um, and that would be very helpful because I will tell you that for a lot of these, it's exactly the way I just described it. You're looking through message board posts from like 2011, trying to find the information you're looking for, or you're looking at like 16 different YouTube videos, and these are long videos because it's like a mod installation. And so you'll get halfway through one before you realize that they're not doing a very good job and you just wasted, 15 minutes of your time.
Oh, are they all the ones with like the really bad lettering and the terrible jump cuts and stuff? And
Stuff like that, or they'll just skip
yeah,
steps and like assume, I guess, you knew to do something, which I'm like, if you're going to make a how-to video, don't skip steps. But like, just don't make the video if you're lazy.
fair enough.
No one made you make the video. But yeah, so and I started contributing to this week. And I'm working on the Sega Genesis Model 3 page. Getting that ready. And the thing is, they're trying to migrate articles from the Retro RGB website to
Hmm.
the wiki. So that's a big thing they're doing right now. If you go to it, you'll see that a lot of pages don't exist or are incomplete. That's because that this is just people doing this in their free time, and it's a lot of work.
It is. The PS3 section's real in depth though.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are. I think the Xbox 360 ones pretty complete too.
Yeah, I've been meaning to actually get one and try to mod it, so I might use that resource.
Yeah, it's when this thing gets further along, it's going to be awesome, and anybody can go create a account and contribute, and they have a Discord you can join, that is actually really cool. I just joined it this week, and not only is it cool for, communicating with, like, working on the wiki, but they have a lot of channels devoted to retro modding that are like console specific, and it's kind of cool to hop on there, and you see new posts in the Wii channel, and you go and it's somebody like modding their Wii, and if you're into that kind of stuff, it's a cool Discord. It's pretty much all they talk about is that kind of stuff. So it's if you're not into that, there's nothing there for you. But um, it is a cool mod, or cool Discord. They are have been very friendly, and again, the website is cool. If you need that resource, it's consolemods.org, or if you're the kind of person who's like, oh, hey, I want to contribute. You know, because that's fun, right? Contributing to a wiki, and in a lot of cases, those wikis are already done. Like, most of the good wikis about good topics on the internet have been complete for a long time.
Mhm.
Um, so it's kind of rare, at least in my view, to see one like this. Like, it makes me feel like being back on the internet back in the day when there was things that people hadn't tackled yet that you could still get in on. Um, so that's cool. That's, my exciting thing, console mods.
It's very exciting, actually. It's a great resource for people to get into something that I think is important for multiple reasons. I feel like getting into hardware modification can help people bring life into retro consoles, and the more people that are interested in that, the more people that will try to keep retro console gaming alive, and that's really good for keeping the history of video games alive, in my
I
opinion.
mean, exactly, and, you can from a preservation standpoint, that's a cool part because you can restore a console, you can make it work with new TVs, and then from a, "Hey, I wanna do cool stuff with my console that it could never do," you can add functionality or make cosmetic changes. And then, of course, for, a lot of people, it's like, "Hey, I have a Wii, um, is there a way for me to play, you know, downloaded Wii games on my Wii?" Because I don't wanna go buy all the Wii games, and I don't have a computer powerful enough to, like, run the Dolphin emulator at, like, full settings or whatever. And it's like, yes, there's a way to mod your Wii to play games from a hard drive, and it's not that hard, and stuff like that. There's a spectrum of reasons to look at console modding, from like, I want to recapture this experience, to I don't want to pay for old games.
That's a big part, especially when the old games aren't for resale anywhere and you're spending paying somebody hundreds of dollars
Exactly.
for a video game like the fucking Hurricanes soccer platformer for the Super Nintendo. I I don't understand why that's $150. That game is not good. That game is booty booty butt cheeks.
Well, you're clearly not a capitalist, sir.
I am not a capitalist. That's true. I
But
uh
yeah, I mean,
I'm
it's
not.
if you want to, a lot of people, they hear console modding and they think, oh, it's just like getting like my DS screen to be like the better, like, backlight and stuff, or it's getting, things to output RGB and have these super sharp pictures, and I don't care. I'll just, I'm fine with emulation or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. But I feel like there's still some stuff there for people, like I said, with things like PlayStation 3. I'm not going to encourage modding anything newer than that, really, just because I don't want to. I'm not saying you can't, and I'm not saying I judge you if you do. I'm just saying it's less justifiable with a console that is still being produced. Um, but with things like PS3 and stuff, modding them, putting in custom firmware and stuff to be able to play backups or homebrew games, or neat applications and stuff, is not. It's gotten really easy, compared to where it was a few years ago. So if you're the kind of person who's like, my PS3 is dusty, or my Vita's dusty, or whatever, and it would be cool to have the library of games on that, or homebrew games, or emulators. You can put emulators on these systems. It's not that hard to do it anymore. So it's that, just from a greedy, like, I want free stuff perspective, hey, it's worth checking out for that. And I encourage that just because that is a path. I don't care what people say. People will argue with me about theft and piracy and stuff, but um, that's a path to preserving games just because it gives people a reason to keep the hardware around. If otherwise at some point they're just going to be like, I have no use for this thing. It's collecting dust. Let me toss it, or let me, whatever. Like,
Exactly, and I'm 100% okay with doing that myself. I don't care about modding something to be able to play games off of an emulator or off of a particular mod. I I really don't. I think the $1 million companies will be fine, and I also think that most of the things I do it for anyway aren't making them any money to begin with because I just want to play Guardian Heroes. Okay,
that, and from my experience, I'm not saying this is everybody,
sure, sure,
but myself and a lot of people I know, like, I have a modded Sega Genesis, and eventually I'm gonna buy an EverDrive for it. And I can play the whole library on there. I mean, I can do that now on my phone or my computer or whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm still gonna give Sega, $50 or whatever for Sonic Origins.
right.
I still buy these games when they are available, even though I can play them for free and do like so. Whatever. They'll get their money.
Yeah, I bought all the Pixel remasters.
Yeah, and I'm
I
not, again, I'm not saying that's
yeah,
everybody. There are people who are like, "Ha ha, I'm not paying for this because I can get it for free," or
twirl
people
the
who are like,
mustache and run away
yeah,
into the night. Yes,
or people who are like, "I am poor but still want to play video games, and I can get them for free, so I'm going to."
right.
But there are plenty of people who don't fall under those classifications. Anyway, moving on. I actually had nothing else.
Excellent. That means we can go on to our next segment. And can I introduce it, Brian?
Sure, because I do not remember what it is.
It is Misplaced Melodies. Welcome
Oh,
back.
our podcast
Yeah.
within a podcast.
Yeah, yeah. So we started as Misplaced Melodies. And part of why we decided to do the particular format we're doing now is doing Misplaced Melodies weekly was a lot of work because it takes a lot of research to make sure that we're not sounding silly. So we're going to go ahead and do little Misplaced Melody minis in our episodes. And we're going to probably end up having big ones at the end of the month every month where we actually do the research. And that's going to be the cadence we aim for once we get stuff more settled and work stops draining my soul out of my body.
It's never going to stop doing that. So what you mean is when it's finished and you have no soul,
Correct.
that's when you'll be able to devote yourself to the podcast more.
Exactly. When I become a walking dead, I will be able to podcast more. But the misplaced melody segment is we're going to talk about a video game song we really like, a little bit about who composed it, and why we think it's a misplaced tier, i.e., not very well known. Since I just did a whole bunch of talking, Brian, why don't you start off?
Right. So yeah, this is basically a track of the day type thing, and we're each getting one. So um, I did no research on mine, so I can't tell you that much about the history of it. But I picked Title Surge Day 3 from the Sega Genesis game Vector Man.
Ah,
Yeah, I mean, not exactly like forgotten classic or anything like that. Plenty of people know what Vector Man is, but I feel like not enough people talk about the soundtrack, and they should, because it's awesome. It's by a fellow named John Holland, and if I recall, looking at his work, he hasn't really done much else. Not a prolific composer, but he did this game. I think he did the sequel too, as Vector Man 2.
mhm,
This was back in 1995. Again, for the Sega Genesis, it's a 2D platformer. This is from the third level, which is why Day 3 is in the title. It's a water themed level. Takes place mostly underwater, and I have loved this track since I was a child. It is one of my absolute favorite video game tracks. It slaps. I love it. If you don't like it, I hate you, and you can stop listening to my show.
Agreed.
But yeah, so I guess we'll give it a listen, play a bit for you, and then we'll come back and talk about Teeps's track.
All right. See you on the other side. All right. So, welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that journey into the water, and we can go ahead and surge right
Well,
in.
well,
Oh,
real quick, what did you think, Teeps? I don't know if you're familiar with that track. Did you like it? Do I have to kick you off the show?
you do not have to kick me off the show. I do like it. I like the entire Vector Man soundtrack, even though I've never played the games really, because it's got this really cool early electronica, like acidy feeling to it. And me not knowing technical terminology for the waves and stuff, but all I'm saying is
Just
that
say
this,
words like synth and acid and
yeah,
electronic,
electronic synthy acid. Yeah. So dirty is a really good term, but like good dirty.
industrial.
Yeah, yeah. Like I like I feel the grime entering my ears and like tunneling into my brain, and it's staying there, and it's just like chewing on it. It's it's chunky is a good way to put it. The waves that they're using to make the sound. I do know that they are using a particular waveform in this here. I messed with it a little bit, and something that I really want to talk about, and we're gonna have a whole episode where we defend the Mega Drive sound system because people are mean to it for no reason. But the sound chip that the Mega Drive has is awesome, and I feel like Vector Man does an excellent job of utilizing that and having that punchy sound and just really driving it home. I think this is a fantastic track.
I could go off about that chip, so I won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, awesome. I'm glad you liked it. So I don't have to kick you off our show.
Perfect.
And tell me what your track is and why I should like it.
All right. So my track is a little track by Hudson Soft. It is from Super Bonk, the Bonk game that was not on the Turbo Graphics. It was on the Super Nintendo. The
So the
song,
only one people played.
yeah, the only one people played, right? The game is called Super Bonk, and the song is Shoot the Smiley. It is a bonus stage level where Bonk is a little crab shooting at things in the sky. It's great. And the song was composed by Kenosuke Sumara, I believe. And he made quite a few soundtracks that I enjoy. He's a big part of the Fatal Fury 2 soundtrack, which I absolutely adore. Big Bear's theme slaps, and I will probably pick that at some point. But this is a very happy, flighty song that I feel really catches what it's going for. So let's go ahead and give it a listen, Brian.
Sounds good. See you on the other side.
All right.
And we're back, and I can't see you, so I don't know why I said that. But yeah, that was a great track. I really appreciated your choice. It's a game I have played a couple of the Bonk games, but the reason I made that joke a minute ago is because I actually have no childhood friends who owned a TurboGrafx. So Bonk was not a franchise I was familiar with until I was an adult. So I have not given it the attention it deserves.
Bonk is wonderful, and the only reason I knew about it as a kid is there was a particular issue of Nintendo Power I had that had a whole bunch of Super Bonk stuff, and I was always super envious. Like, I want to play Bonk. And then I saw that all the other Bonk games were in the system that I had no idea existed because I lived on a military base in Italy and there was nowhere that sold it. So
What?
I never got a chance to play the Turbo Graphics. It was a weird thing because we had some things that were sold at the commissary that were in American setup. So I had like an American Super Nintendo, but a PAL something else,
I
right?
was gonna ask. I was like, you're calling it the Turbo Graphics, but wasn't it the PC Engine over there?
Yeah, it was the PC Engine over there. But the issue was the PC Engine wouldn't have worked correctly with our setup and the things that we had. So it was all kinds of weird because military in a foreign country. But I did get to see Super Bonk, and I went back and played all of them as I was older. And specifically about the track itself, what do you think about it? Like what it conveys? Does it do a good job? Like what do you enjoy about it?
I think it does an excellent job. I listened to it earlier, and I didn't really have any context. So when you described him flying through the sky as a crab, it clicks. Like it works for that very well. I I like the sounds that they used.
Hmm.
It's not the typical kind of Super Nintendo track that I listen to for fun, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I could definitely see listening to it more. It was quality. It's so with platformers with older games, right? That you're gonna
Hmm.
replay a level a lot. An important thing that everybody knows, it's not news, is that if a track is bad, boring, or annoying, it's gonna be a problem because you're gonna hear it a lot.
Yes.
And this one would not be getting on my nerves. Like I could listen to this a lot, so that's a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way about it. And whenever anybody brings up songs that are terrible, and we need to find a way to put this into a section of the podcast so everybody has to listen to it every episode.
Are you
Do
gonna
you
say
remember
Chrono Cross?
do you remember the dwarf village in Secret of Mana?
Vaguely.
Go listen to that song and let us know how to actually I want you to put it in the song if that's okay. To
Sure.
wrap it up, I want you to put it in the episode just so people have to listen to it.
Sure. Well, with this bonus song, Dwarf Village.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful. But that's all I have as far as everything. Brian, do you have anything?
No, other than that, hopefully you enjoy the episode. If not, know that we are hoping we get better with each of these. So
Yes.
maybe if you didn't like us this time, check us back out next time, or don't. I don't care. We'll get other people.
Hell yeah.
I've had a long week. I'm kind of salty. Um, but no, thank you very much for joining us and listening. We have a website.
Yes.
It it kind of sucks. It's hopefully going to get better, and that's misplacedpod.com. We have a Twitter, which
Hmm.
is at misplacedpod.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, we have a YouTube that Shannon here. I keep trying to call him Teeps because that's his handle on things. But he's supposed to be doing stuff with that, like I'm supposed to be doing stuff with the website, and hopefully hopefully we start putting content on there. We'll see.
Absolutely.
But no, other than that, just thank you for listening. And if all goes well, we will have this out within a day or two, and maybe we'll have another one in like a week.
All right. Exciting.
All right. Until then, later.
Yeah. Have a great day, everybody.